Are you worried about how The Fault in Our Stars will translate into a movie? Asks Emily. Well, yes. Yes, I am. But I'm hopeful. I mean, movies are a funny thing because, in a way, like, I would like a movie to be made from one of my books someday, and I hope that it is The Fault in Our Stars because the script is really good and all the people who are around it are really great people, and they love the book and they really believe in it, and I don't think for a second any of that is like Hollywood stuff. So I really do want to see it made, but then you always worry because one thing will inevitably go away. Like, no matter how great the Harry Potter movies are, and I think many of them are really great, I will never again have Harry and Hermione for my own. You know, he will always be Daniel Radcliffe to me. And that's because the power of visual images is so strong that when I reread Harry Potter now, I can't help but see him, at least some of the time. So I can't have that magic of creating it solely with the author. That's the magic of reading to me, is that you turn these meaningless scratches on a page through your knowledge of language. You turn them into ideas that exist in your head. And you can never have that once a movie has kind of stood in between the two of you, no matter how great the movie is. So people complain a lot that Looking for Alaska has never been made into a movie, but I find that kind of wonderful because that book has found an amazing audience around the world without becoming a movie. You know, so that it still belongs to us. You know, it still feels like it belongs to us, and that's great. So if they never make a movie, that's okay too, because then it gets to belong to us. And if they do make a movie, that's great, because then it belongs to a ton of other people, and that would be fun too. How are you able to understand how a girl's brain works? Asks Amber. I don't know. I mean, I never thought about it that way, to be honest with you. Like, I guess the spoiler alert is that your brain works kind of like a boy's brain. When I thought about it, I really wanted to write this novel from the perspective of a girl, because usually in these books, it's the girl who's sick, and then there's some healthy boy who learns important lessons via usually the death of this girl. Like, that's the genre of the cancer novel. It's like the dying girl exists so that the boy can learn important lessons about how to be grateful for every day and whatever. That world imagines that sick people exist exclusively for the benefit of healthy people, which is a very healthy people-centric way of imagining the world, right? Like, oh, you're sick? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't seem fair. Oh, I know why you're sick. It's so that I can be happier. That's ludicrous, and it really bothered me. And so I definitely wanted to invert the traditional gender roles of that relationship and give voice to the young, sick woman. And keep her voice throughout the novel, so that you never lose her voice, you're never separated from her voice. And when I thought about doing that in the abstract, I was really intimidated, but when I finally started to write, like the part that I just read, which is the first part I wrote when I really started to write lots of words that were going to end up in the book, which I guess was in 2009, 2010, when that started to happen, I didn't feel like I was writing from the perspective of a girl, I felt like I was writing from the perspective of Hazel, and that made everything suddenly possible. So it felt like a very specific voice to me, not like, oh, what are girls like? Because I don't know. I heard your answer about why Hazel is called Hazel, because it's an in-between color, and she's in between like sickness and health, and teenagehood and adulthood, blah, blah, blah. I was wondering if there's also a story behind the names of Augustus and Isaac, asks Chelsea. Why, of course there is. What is the point of writing if not to entertain yourself? It's extremely time-consuming. Hold on, I have to make sure I'm not going over my time. I'm good. Yeah, I mean, Augustus is literally the name of Roman emperors. All Roman emperors were named Augustus, like Caesar was Caesar Augustus. And the first Roman emperor was just Augustus, and they all had Augustus squeezed in there somewhere, even if they had like 36 names. And so it's literally like an imperial name, right? Whereas Gus is the name of like a little kid, like it's monosyllabic, you sort of picture a small person, and that journey that Gus makes away from being Augustus, this, you know, larger than life, very charismatic, almost rehearsed in his charisma. I mean, there's a few times where he confesses that he's like memorized what he wanted to say. Whenever Hazel interrupts him, he's like, stop interrupting me, I have a soliloquy to deliver, when of course he means a monologue, but Gus is constantly misusing big words. It's part of, you know, being a smart teenager, is that, like, your reach, you can grasp, reach, I don't remember the cliche. So I wanted to reflect that journey from Augustus to Gus, from strength to weakness, in his name and also in the way Hazel refers to him. So she exclusively refers to him as Augustus early in the novel. Later in the novel she calls him Gus, and at one point even says, Gus even says, "You used to call me Augustus," and he clearly wants that. Like, he wants that kind of heroism. He wants that imperial heroism that, like, the patriarchy has always imagined as the truly heroic life. But I believe, what I came to believe in writing this novel, is that the real hero's journey is not the journey from weakness to strength, the journey from strength to weakness. And Gus has to learn to accept that. And Isaac, because Isaac from the Bible. You know, he was blind, etc. How does it feel knowing that you got Neil Gaiman to say donkey balls? Good, yeah, so I got Neil Gaiman to say donkey balls live on stage in front of a sold-out Carnegie Hall crowd in New York City. We constructed this whole reading of my book Paper Towns entirely so that Neil would be stuck with the character who says, I decided during government that I would actually literally suck donkey balls if it meant I could skip that class for the rest of the semester. And the whole time during the reading I was like, we're coming to it. Neil Gaiman's going to say it's donkey balls. He didn't just say donkey balls, he said suck donkey balls. And we got to it and it was everything I could have imagined. How were you able to create such an amazing character who all girls are in love with? And then in parentheses, Augustus. I wouldn't wonder if it was someone else. Did you base it on someone you know? Asks Amy. Well, me. I mean, I think in some ways, like, Gus embodies what very few guys are, but, like, wish they were. The confidence, the sense of preparedness that we all wish we had in conversation, particularly with those we're attracted to. But I guess I did get a lot of it from my best friend, this guy Chris Waters, who, at least when you first meet him, you would think, I mean, everybody when they meet him for the first time, you spend an evening with Chris and then you go home and you say, well, that person is impossibly charming and well-informed and funny and gracious, and he's a great listener and he asks a lot of questions, and I just love him. And I remember, like, going home after the first time we hung out and being like, I wonder if I can call him now. Wait until tomorrow. And I waited until tomorrow and I was like, hi, it's John Green, do you want to go out again? He was like, all right. And then we went out and he was like, you know, like, slightly less impressive. And then, like, the third time, less impressive still. And now he's just my best friend, regular guy. Occasionally, like, the problem is, really charismatic people usually have 8 great stories. And you hear most of them in a single night, and you're like, wow, that person is an infinite fountain of fascinating stories. And then, like, after a month, you're like, oh, I know the one about the time you did the hallucinogenic flower in Peru. I know that one. You haven't known? You only did it once? So I guess I based a lot of it on Gus. Hazel's favorite book is about death, as the main character dies in the middle of a sentence, and while Augustus's favorite series stars a character that is immortal, or at least functionally so. Was this an intentional decision, asks Ella. Ella, are you here?
Yeah.
How old are you?
16.
Yeah, so Ella's 16, so when people tell me that my characters, that teenagers aren't actually that smart, screw you, look at Ella. I'm really tired of that, man. I'm really tired of adults telling teenagers how smart they aren't. Yeah, that's a fascinating question. And yes, I mean, I was certainly aware of that. Like, books belong to their readers, and any metaphorical resonance that you find that's interesting and gives a way further into the story or into the characters or into your own life is real. And it doesn't have to have been intended by me in order for it to be real or important. But as it happens, that was intentional. You know, there are two, I guess this will be the last question. There are two kind of ideas of heroism put forth in the book, right? Augustus's idea, like early in the novel, Gus is playing a video game, and it becomes clear that his character is in an impossible position, so he jumps on a grenade, and the grenade explodes, and he dies, but he's proud of himself because he saved all of these school children, who I will remind you are pixels. And Hazel is like, well, yeah, the terrorists are just going to overrun them because now there's no one to protect them because you are dead. And Gus is like, well, but I bought them a minute, and maybe that's the minute that buys them an hour, and maybe that's the hour that buys them a year. And that idea of heroism, the like jumping on the grenade, sacrificing yourself in some way, the V for Vendetta idea of heroism, is very, very powerful, particularly in patriarchal cultures. And I don't want to like overgeneralize, but I do think it's kind of a masculine idea that like the most heroic thing that you can do is like kill someone for someone or die for someone or something. And Hazel's idea, but generally it's that idea of a grand life, leaving a mark on the world, finding a way to live forever, that your name will be on the tongues of people in 1,000 years. Yeah, I think that is really overrated, generally. So Gus is a fan of this guy, Max Mayhem, in this book series where he never dies, he always finds a way, he always survives, he's the great American hero, or the great British hero in the form of James Bond. Hazel likes a very different book, a book that acknowledges the reality of death and dying, a book about a character whose life is very ordinary and who never achieves anything that we would consider great, but that nonetheless, you know, is great in its way. I mean, her idea of heroism is to walk lightly upon the world, to try to be good to those with whom you come in contact, and you know, not to be aware that humans are just as likely to leave scars on the universe as they are to leave the universe a better place. And I don't have any easy answers there, and that's why there aren't any answers in the book for which of those ideas of heroism leads to a better life. And I don't think either Gus or Hazel really gives in to the other's idea in the novel. Like they both continue to believe what they believe. What I like about them as people, I guess, is that they can love each other anyway, that they can have this disagreement, and they can have it in a very civil, loving way, and continue to care for each other in spite of the fact that they have very different worldviews. So yeah, that was one way that I tried to reflect. That was in the books that they love. Hold on. Nailed it. Okay. Now, I believe Hank is going to come on and sing a few more songs.